Yeah. Good morning. Welcome to the Light on Suitability podcast. We're back with Dean Laurellis from Lighthouse 9 Consulting and Joseph Haytas, who wrote the book 36 Strategies of Suitability. We're talking about his book. We love talking about his book. I'm looking forward to talking about his next book more than anything. I'm Elizabeth Comeau, also your host with Joe. We're parole suitability lawyers in the state of California. And Dean helps people become suitable via his programs that he offers through Lighthouse 9 Consulting. Fantastic programs for any of the family members that are listening. Get your loved ones signed up to any of his programs because they are phenomenal, and he's extremely educated. And unlike me, he actually understands nonviolent communication skills very well. So, but I'm working on it. I'm trying. Just begin everything with what I hear you saying is strategy 10, Joe, become the better you. This sort of builds on strategy 9, I suspect.
Mm-hmm.
And how does one become the better you as a eligible parolee?
I think it first starts with desire. The want. You have to want to become the better you. Nobody can tell you or give you guidelines, and it's all about. I think, looking back at the person you were and who you want to become, and it's always something to strive for. There's nothing ever. It's not like a one and done thing. It's a process. And having an open mind and being open to change. And of course, no matter what your crime was, no matter who you are, I think maybe not everybody, but a lot of people want to make excuses, blaming the victim, the co-defendant, their situation. And, you just have to stop and say, why am I here in prison of all places? What did I do? Who did I become? And it's changing that person that you became that took you to prison to becoming now a person that can take you out of prison. And it's not easy. It's, because first of all, you got to want it bad to change. And you're not going to change unless you really want to change. And then along the way, there's going to be obstacles. And it's part of becoming the better you to deal with those obstacles in a positive way. Maybe in the past, when you were opposed or whatever, your answer was violence. Or it may not even have been violence. It may have been, well, that person's not right. And, you want to prove yourself right all the time, no matter what. But that's a form of excuses as well. You have to look deep and not only take responsibility for your past, but be accountable. And by being accountable, you must do the things to change. And like I said, again, I can't repeat it enough. You have to want to change. You have to be honest and direct about who you were in the past. Because if you don't acknowledge who you were, you're not gonna change anything. And I think after all of that, you must become immersed in self-help, because that's going to be your vehicle for the biggest change. Of course, your heart has to change, your mind has to change, and then working on that change through self-help by becoming immersed in it and doing all the things that you need to do, like with a relapse prevention plan, to be able to internalize, in other words, what you learn to become the better you. By internalization, meaning that your new conduct is automatic. In the past, your bad conduct, we're all led by our unconscious. 95% of everything we do is through our subconscious mind. We have to change those automatic patterns we had in the past to first cancel them and then to replace them with a new way of behavior. And all of that in the context in prison, preparing for life in the community, which many have not been in for such a long time, but then being able to adapt the new things, first of all, to your environment in prison, and then transitioning outside of prison to the community and all the stressors in the community, like with employment, traffic, people with bad attitudes, mostly, even people with bad attitudes. So it's all a process. And I think it starts with a desire to become the better you. And that's, I think, becoming the better you, it's, you got to want it and know that it's a process. And may I say one more thing?
No.
No. Okay. No, it's not about wanting to go home. It really has to be fundamentally internal that, you want to do this. It's not something you have to do. You have to have a deep desire, and that'll fuel you, I believe, in part through the whole process.
I think that's a really important point to end on, and that is be the person you are no matter where you wake up. And that's what I tell a lot of my clients. And a lot of my clients who are really ready for parole often will tell me, you know what? I'm in such a great place. Other than the food is not great and the bed is sort of I'm so busy helping others and being of service, working step 10, 11, 12, which is the emotional sobriety steps, helping others, peer support, K9 program. A lot of my guys are really sad if they get ground and parole because they love their K9 program, or they love this. I'm facilitating this great group, or I'm about to start this other thing, or I've helped all these people, or there's this guy that's really struggling and he's really like, if I get granted, I'm okay. And if I get denied, I'm still okay. And that guy is just ready to go home and go out typically, and genuinely feels that way. He's not just telling that to me to sound good because I'm not the Board of Paroles, but he genuinely is like, you know what? All of a sudden, my life has meaning. It has purpose. And so it doesn't, other than the bed and some of, having to hang your towel somewhere over a chair, it's okay. I can swing the cafeteria, whatever. I'm so busy. Just grab whatever's good on the tray and keep going. There's not, you've got a good support system. Usually, that really helps too, is getting people, surrounding yourself. Becoming a better you is also surrounding yourself with really good quality people. And that's for everybody, because they say longevity is all about having a good social community, positive community. So I really liked how you ended that, Joe. How about you, Dean?
Well, I was just, thinking about what you were saying. There was a saying that when everything in here is good and working, everything out here doesn't matter. So when somebody is happy with themselves, when they find their niche and they're doing this positive things, pro-social things in prison, the environment they're in doesn't matter, and they're content with themselves. And that's what's important, is to find that being content with yourself. And that only comes through the change, through the transformation. And I like what Joe said about it. It starts with the desire. I'll take it a step further. It starts with the desire and the decision. The decision to make the change. The process isn't easy. It's very challenging. I've worked with a number of guys when they finally take the mask off and they're ready to do the work, because I think that's one of the things that prevents people, is wearing that mask. They're so used to doing that. So getting them to be their genuine, authentic self, taking that mask off. And when I look at Become the Better You, I think about what prevents people from doing that. And a lot of times it's the shame and the guilt of addressing what they've done. And that because of that, they don't want to look at it. And so when we're working with guys and they hit this point where they've got to really dig deep and look at themselves, look at what they did, take responsibility and accept that they actually did such a thing, in their offense. A lot of them don't want to. It hurts. It's hard. You're looking at the ugliest, worst things you've ever done in your life, and you're trying to address those things. And so a lot of people don't want to look at that. But for those who do, that's part of the process. To for that transformation is being able to break those things down. I've worked with clients who talk about their childhood and how horrible those were for them and what they experienced. But we need to understand where behaviors came from, where the feelings and thoughts, behaviors came from, so that we can address that, and then in long term, change the behavior. So I think there's a lot there. When you're looking at their transformations, where they're at. In our programs, that's why we have the who were the assignments, who were you then now, or who were you then, who are you now, and then the third one in that collection is how did you get that way? How did you become the person that you are? So you talk about immersion and self-help programming, immersion in academics, guys going to college. It's like a lot of our clients, they've gotten associate's degrees. Some are looking forward to working on a bachelor's. Some are moving towards a master's, and I think that's great. Keeping that up with the self-help programming, giving back to their communities. And, a lot of times people aren't used to doing that. And they've asked me, well, how do I give back to my community? I said, well, did you ever tutor somebody in something? Did you ever spend time just putting away what you wanted to do, but spend time with somebody else who needed to talk, who needed an ear? Are you getting involved in charitable events? Sometimes they do cancer walks and, donations and things to certain organizations. And are you getting involved in those things? Putting others first. And one of the things that we teach in the transformation is the spiritual principles. Do the opposite of what you were doing. So if you were violent, be peaceful. If you were an addict, be sober. If you were selfish, live selflessly. And by doing that over time, is it uncomfortable at first? Yes, because you're not used to it. So over time, with repetition, it becomes comfortable. And then it becomes a part of your way of being, your lifestyle. And so what we teach is get comfortable in the discomfort, because that's where growth lives. That's where you grow. When you're uncomfortable, that's where you learn to adapt. You learn to be flexible, you grow. So get comfortable in that. And, it's the same thing for the guys when they go to the board hearing. You're talking to two strangers, complete strangers, about the worst things you've ever done in your life. Is that comfortable? No. But get comfortable in that, and I think that shows the transformation. That shows that people have addressed issues. They've put the work in it. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who's done the work is ready to go yet. We've had some clients that are doing well and they're on the path. Are they ready yet? No, not just yet. And a little more time. It's like right now they're where they need to be, and they can put the work in and continue doing it. And then we have other clients who are ready, and each one is on their own path. Length of time, the process, it's different. Sometimes they're very similar, but they're still different. But I think in that becoming the better you, and it's funny because when I look at become the better you, what does that mean? And that's one thing that we work with the guys. Guys say, well, I want to be a better person. What does that mean? And that's when we get into the knee boots with the S on the chest and the cape. Is that a better person? What does it mean to be a better person? I want to be a compassionate husband. I want to be a kind son. I want to be a loving father. That's specific. So break those things down. Be specific in who it is you want to be, because that gives you something to shoot for. It's like a clear goal, But yeah, that's what I got.
Really, another powerful chapter. It builds on so many of the other chapters. Joe always has a great quote at the beginning: those who cannot change their mind cannot change anything. And that also goes back to his main chapter, which is chapter 1, Think Free. And this is all about self-improvement, improvement of your mind, your character, your conduct, your ethics, your values. and the effort that you're going to make. And like he said, be open to change.
Mhm.
Stop making excuses is what I heard him say. A lot of people do start out with blaming the codefendant, blaming the wife, you know, blaming the troubled childhood even.
Yeah.
At some point, I'm reading this book called Inside the Criminal Mind, and she gives a kind of a bit of a scathing rebuke on the fact that we're drawing these strong connections between childhood trauma and crime. Yes, there is a correlation there most of the time, but she says that there are criminals out there that have great childhoods. Now, I'm sitting there and thinking, I don't see that in my every single client case that I have, except for one or two. But if they're narcissistic, then I never know because that's a shame-based strategy that will hide that, or say, oh, it was normal. So I'm reading this book. It's a fascinating book. I'm reading it as an alternative to Bad Boys, Bad Men, because Bad Boys, Bad Men is great, but it gets very sensational at the end with, because it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum of antisocial personality disorder versus Inside the Criminal Mind. It's a little older. Her viewpoints are a little interesting. And I have to I hate when I have to have my clients read a book and then say, look, take what you need and leave the rest, but it's still good advice, and that's what 12 steps will tell you over and over again. I think that become the better you. If you want to become a better version of yourself, start participating in 12-step meetings. Pick one and attend weekly, if not more. If not more. It's a powerful program, and like in Al-Anon, they call it gentle. You can't figure out why it works, but if you just keep going and keep trying to think about the steps, work the steps if possible, all of a sudden, these people just keep coming to these meetings with their experience, strength, and hope. And they say, I'm not the same person I was when I started coming to these meetings. And they even say 6 good quality meetings will change your life. So if you want to become a better person, and Joe wants to make a second edition to this book or a third edition, 12-step meetings, pick one. You can go to AA even if you're not an alcoholic. I'll tell you why, because it's really the ism, and I tell you that all the time. It's about the disease of self. Selfish, self-centered, all about me. That's the ism. So for most of us, I would say for most of us, maybe it's just the nature of the work that I do, and I just see people that are not doing the work and it's all about them. Maybe I'm surrounded by that personally. I don't know. But 12 steps, got to be in there. Stop making excuses. Joe talked about that. He also, I think, mentioned deal with rejection positively or any of your other character defects. And you know how you do that? The 4 agreements. Stop taking things personally and stop
Mhm.
making some assumptions. And like Joe said, be honest and direct. That's becoming a better you instead of this antisocial personality type of thing where you talk vague. I can see it in gang members a lot, or even people convicted of sex offenses. They talk around stuff.
Mhm.
No, be honest and direct
Yeah.
is what Joe said. And, asking yourself all the questions that you couldn't or wouldn't answer back when you were not the better person that you are, better version of the person that you are now. Like Dean said, what caused all of that? It's nice to make a who were you then and who are you now? You've got to answer, and how did you get both of those ways, then and now?
Right.
Talking about your strengths and weaknesses with confidence, acting the same in every situation that you are. Another thing I tell my clients, you know what I don't want to hear? I do not want to hear, well, I'm just telling you this because you're my lawyer. Well, I'll just tell him because he's the officer. Well, I just say that to the guys on the yard. Oh, I won't tell that to the commissioners. Oh, that's not something I would ever tell, my mother. Then you're not living in an integrated fashion, living with integrity. And if you're not under pressure, I don't know what system it is, under pressure, your subconscious mind will bleed the truth out your mouth, straight into the commissioner's ears, and you will be exposed. And trust me, those commissioners are sharp, sharp, sharp. They really are. And I just think it's from them doing it over, just like Joe and I and Dean doing it over and over and talking to people and over and over and over. It's like you can just hear it and you just know what someone needs, what someone's blind spots are, and stuff like that. So, when you are with other people, you should just be the true, authentic version of yourself with everyone. When you get to that point, when you get to the point where you wake up with purpose and meaning, no matter what bed that is, where that is, and you live your life with authenticity, you are near the end zone. I don't know what that's called in football, but you're near the end zone. You're about to score the touchdown. I'm sorry. You really have to screw that up. If you're near the end zone,
they call it the red zone. It's the last 20 yards before the goal line.
Oh,
in the
I
red
did not
zone.
know that. I did not know that. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Red zone it should be green zone. I don't know. Anyway.
I don't name it. I'm just telling you what it's called.
Thank you. There is a name for it. Okay. Because I always tell my client, they don't care because they get the analogy. Most people are into football. And, you really have to screw it up, right, Dean? I mean, you're on the 1 yard line. You got the green dot and go. It should be a grant to parole. The only way you're going to screw this up is there's a huge blind spot that was missed by everyone. Someone drops a confidential, blindsides you, or you get a write-up, and that should really not be happening. I mean, if you can't figure out how to put the jacket over your eyes to keep the light out without putting the light, you're not smart, okay? That you're not smart. Because I don't think anybody would just take the washcloth and put it over your eyes if the light's bothering you. Like, to this day, I must be missing something, and I don't want to be condescending, but I must be missing something. Why you can't take the cloth? I don't know. I'm not sure. So, and I got a guy, I got clients, shouldn't say a guy, random clients. You've got 4 counseling only chronos for hanging a sheet. Last month, 4 months before your hearing. That's screwing it up when you don't need to. That's just like, I don't care. You have to make some sacrifices. And I think becoming the better you it's not all about you. Start making the necessary sacrifices, start waiting for the laundry day to do the laundry or the soap to come in instead of doing this, all these little shortcuts that sometimes you get away with, you can't afford with it after the last board action for sure. So whatever the last board action is, a waiver, a postponement, a stip, an advancement, whatever, you can't afford it. You can't afford, the officer says I always took the apples out. I've been doing that for 20 years. You just can't afford it before your hearing. And so those are the kinds of things where I'm saying you're in 1 yard to the touchdown here. Don't screw it up. And then, you also, not taking it personally means it's hard though. It's hard, but also even if someone they're talking about me. Okay. Maybe they are. They're laughing at me. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But if they are, that's their business. That's really hard for a lot of our clients. It's their business. Who cares? You want to control how someone else thinks, how someone else responds to something, how someone else lives their life. and their opinion about you is their business. And that, when you can get that as well, that is becoming a better that's becoming more, you know what that is? Not low self-esteem. That's the opposite of self-esteem. It's like, I don't care what you say about me. You go for it, because if you're gossiping, that's a shame-based defense mechanism anyway. So if you can see that you've developed compassion for that other person, that's becoming a better you. So,
Yeah.
um, and like Joe said, become immersed in self-help.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, it's I always hear that from guys too, talking about other people talking about them, and I tell them somebody else's opinion of you is none of your business. So what? Just let that go. And I've learned to do that. I've helped others learn to do that. Acceptance over expectations. Accept people and situations for who and how they are, rather than who and how you think they should be. And when you use that word should, it's indicative that you have an expectation. They should be like this. They should know better. So if you just look at the acceptance, I can't change this person. All I control is me. So I choose, not that I have to, because have to puts you in a place of defensiveness. I choose to accept this person for how they are and just let it go. And it makes life so much simpler. I know for me in my everyday life, just accepting situations, because a lot of times stuff happens and it's just, I have no control over it. It's just like, okay, well, we'll get through it. And go to plan B. But even with the person you were talking about who had the 4 write-ups, the counseling chronos with the sheet, a lot of times it's the little things. If you can't follow the little rules, then you probably can't follow the big ones. And I think that's the commissioner's concerns. So if you can't follow the little rules, how can you be expected to follow the laws of the state of California and the rules of parole? I had a guy who, a client who told me, he says, well, I got denied just because I stole a half a roll of tape from education. And I said, okay, so let's go through that. Just because, so you're minimizing. And why did you feel it necessary to tell me that it was only half a roll rather than just say a roll? You're minimizing. And what you're doing is showing criminal thinking, criminal behavior. You're a thief, and you think that they're going to let you out. No. So it's like you've got to be able to stop doing these little things and stop minimizing. Just own it. Once you've done it, you're caught. Just don't, I stole a roll of tape. I wanted it because I wanted it, needed it in the house. Thought, rules didn't apply to me. So it's still those little things, I think, that, they always build up. And it's even in criminal behavior, starting from childhood. Crimes escalate. I remember committing my first crime as a child by stealing a candy bar, shoplifting, and it escalated throughout the years. And that's the way crime works. So if you're doing something small, and I think that sometimes I've seen commissioners get more frustrated with 128s than the 115s, because there's like, this is so stupid. Why would you do this? You can't follow the littlest of rules. And maybe their frustration is that you're so close, but you're just not quite there yet. I don't know. But yeah, the little things like the sheets and stuff like that, I get it. But there comes a time when you have to look at what your goal is. If your goal is to change, to go home, because what you're showing me is you haven't changed, even in something as so small as the sheets, you're still doing what you want to do. You're still breaking the rules. After all these years you've been in prison, all the work you've done, you're still the same as when you committed the crime. You did what you wanted to do back then. You broke the rules. And now you're still doing it. It's a nexus to the crime. So it's like they've got to really look at their goal. And it's one thing we push when we go into Pleasant Valley is whatever you're doing today needs to be pouring into your goals of change and going home. If you're not doing that, then it's insignificant and it has no place in your life. So whatever you do, make sure it has significance. Pour into change and going home, because with the change, people a lot of times, it's like, well, I want to go home. But the thing is, the going home doesn't come without the change. The going home is the byproduct of the change. When you go in and you show them the change and you're able to take responsibility, be transparent and vulnerable, honor your victim, the byproduct is getting the date. The change has to come. And I think that to show that is how many people who don't go to the board that have a fixed term, they go to prison, they come out. They go to prison, they come out, because they don't change. They're still the same people doing the same things. And that's why the prison system is a revolving door for them. It's when you put, as a lifer, when you're putting in that work for that change, that's what makes the difference. And then you absolutely need it once you come home. And coping skills, huge, absolutely huge. I know that on a daily basis, I'm applying coping skills. So it's something it's absolutely needed.
Well, the other coping skill is the antisocial personality disorder traits and the isms, whatever the isms are. So they want to see that you've got something to supplant that. But the other thing is being able to accept criticism.
Mhm.
And we've come kind of full circle on this. Well, it's got to be constructive, and let's call it feedback, and let's not hurt anybody's feelings. It's like, no. You need to be a person. My clients that are ready as well sit there with a notepad going, tell me all of my blind spots. The ones that are not ready are like, oh, you didn't come in here and tell me I'm going to get granted in the face of, 9 write-ups and no self-helps and a bad attitude, and I'm a crybaby.
Yeah, you're not going to fight for me.
I'm not going to fight for you. It's like, it's so hard because it's such a form of gaslighting. Actually, they don't see it, but you're not going to fight for me. Okay. You got to fight. You were in a fight last year, and now you want me to fight for you. Okay. In what way? Like, I can't make that disappear.
Yeah.
You really leave the attorney like it's a form of gaslighting. It's, what they say, when did you stop beating your wife? There's just no answer for it. There's really no answer for it. It's just to deflect and blame shift and scapegoat, and they're just not ready. That's definitely not ready. But the people that are striving and working and studying, those are the people that I'm like, yeah, you look like you really want some freedom from being told when to eat your breakfast and when to turn the lights out. I got that. But the rest of life is, do you know what? It's all the same because it's all lived in here. And if you realize that, like Byron Katie says, it's all of our thinking is what causes us stress. That's it. Nothing else causes stress other than physical pain and things like that. But even then she has systems for that, but it's really the thinking. That's the toxic thinking, which is the disease, which I always get back to. But become the better you. Next week is going to be something additionally exciting as this week's topic, which is a great topic, become the better you. It's hard to become a better person. It is very hard. I really have a lot of respect for my clients who, they're not the same person. You just know it. And I've had the privilege of representing someone when I first started and then seeing them, Ms. Comeau, do you remember me 7 years ago when we got the denial? And I go, wow, I don't even recognize you. You're just not the same person. And that's always really fun to see the before and after on that, when they actually took the advice to heart and went running with it and took the ball and ran with it. So we shall wrap up unless anybody has anything to add. Joe?
No, just that everything we've been talking about, it all goes down to that buzzword that they use in their decision making is offender change, and it's the internalization of that offender change. And if you can do that, then you're going to be super close to getting a grant, but you're doing it because it comes from the inside out.
Yeah, that's
you're
really
not doing
important.
it because of any external reason. You're doing it because that's what you want, and that's like you've been trying with every fiber in your body.
Internalization. It is such a big word. It has a lot behind it, but it is ultimately internalization.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
That's good.
And
Right
by the
on.
way, 128s, they're not serious, are they?
No big deal. No big deal, Joe. No big deal. I mean, there was a case a long time ago. I think the case was Scott. and it says, it's not serious. If it's not serious, it's no big deal. But when you dig, and then that's where people came up with this myth that minor write-ups don't matter. But I went and read that case. I went, they don't matter if, one, it's your only write-up in 20 years.
Yeah.
It was an anomalous situation. It has zero nexus to anything that was going on in your life. I mean, you could make a nexus to everything, but that case was very clear. It was a random write-up. It didn't stand for the proposition that minor counseling chronos don't count against you. That's not what that case held. And I have tried to find other cases that maybe I could rest my hat on, and I never could say it with any, what do you call it? Candor, Joe, candor to the tribunal to go, oh, this case stands for this. It's like somebody's asking on the listserv right now, go, oh, what's the case that says that anything recent you do can't be, you can't say it's recent and then not grant you parole. No, the only thing that can't be recent, if you read that case, is accountability. So I've said, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Okay, I did it. On the day of the hearing, you finally say, I did it. You cannot hold the recency against that person as a basis to deny parole. You have to have something else. But it's not recency of insight, because insight is so connected to that lengthy period of positive rehabilitation, because you had to gain the insight by taking self-help groups, and the self-help groups can be shown to be recent. And then there's not a lengthy period of positive rehabilitation, and people are conflating that case. But anyway, that's very nuanced situation.
Well, I think that a part of the 128 isn't some. I mean, it's different. There are cases that are exempt. I think where you have a guy who gets a write up a 128 and 1 in 20 years. Okay, that's an anomaly. But for somebody who's getting them regularly or gets them regularly enough, I think it's not so much what they're getting them for, but what they represent. So if it's something for hanging sheets up or window covers for being out of bounds or whatever it is, but it shows that it represents that you're still not following the rules. You're still, there's even the small little rules, you're still not following.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal because antisocial personality disorder has a component of entitlement. Okay.
Failure to comply with societal norms.
Failure to comply with societal norms, which is just the society says that this is the book of rules that we're going to follow. We don't, who knows the conspiracy behind it or whatever it is, but this is what we're dealing with. So we do it. Yeah. And, and not learning by your mistakes. It's like, oh, I was drying my towels and I hung them on the bunk because they were wet. I had nowhere to put them. Okay. The officer told you that one time. The non-antisocial personality disorder person says, okay, well, I'm just going to sort of fold this wet towel up, put it where it's supposed to be, and pray tomorrow that when I have a shower, it's sort of dry and doesn't smell moldy. I don't know how it functions. I don't know how it works in there. I mean, I would assume that you could 602 that I need a dry towel or something instead of just hanging it. It's like, but you and I, one write-up or one speeding ticket or one DUI later, we're going to go, no more. We're not going to go 2 and 3 and 4 DUIs later. We're going to stop. Even if I'm talking, okay, so we get a DUI. Okay. That means we haven't complied with societal norms, but I think it's repetitiously. It's like, oh, that judge told me don't drink and drive. No, don't drink and drive because I told you not to, but also if you do and you kill someone, you're going to get a Watson murder conviction. And then that's the person, the antisocial personality disorder person says, just one more time, or it's that entitlement. and I like what you're saying. It's like, it's not just, it's just a sheet. It's just a washcloth over the light. Nobody was hurt. It's so much more than that.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
It is good stuff. It is good stuff. Okay. We will see you guys next week. Thanks for coming on board. Love to see you guys, all your smiling faces, Joe.
Joe's down there taking it all in. Hey, so what is next week's topic?
Yeah, come on, Joe. Tell us.
About creating good karma.
Creating good karma?
I believe so, yes. That's the next chapter.
Wow.
And,
I love that.
Yeah. And we'll talk all about it next week.
Okay.
We could get really creative with that one.
That's right. So be thinking.
Create good karma. I love it.
Doing one throughout the week.
Right.
Love it.
All right. Well, you guys have a good weekend. It was fun today.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great. Thanks, you guys.
Okay.
See you
All right.
guys.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.